Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another installment in the Copper and Woodchute Mountain Railroad. If you're watching last week, you'll have seen me start work on the scenery on the Lackonia side of the railroad and through the rocky area at the end of the railroad. This week I'm going to get the Copper Junction side caught up. I also did a little more work in the area of the stream on the Lackonia side. And although I didn't make any video clips of that work, there are a few still pictures at the end. So be sure to check those out. Anyway, without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and get to work. Over the Copper Junction side of the railroad, we decided that we wanted some low-lying ground along the front edge. So I've cut out the plywood from this point here. The water tank is going to go on the last bit of level ground by this turnout, then it's going to drop off slightly, come up for the road, and there'll be another low-lying area on the other side of the road. Now the client has decided he wants to model a cattle watering hole in this area. Originally we were looking at the possibility of including one on the other side of the railroad, but it wasn't going to work over here. It would have ended up being against the backdrop, which is a notoriously difficult area to capture well. So we avoided that. We're going to put it over this side instead, just in this area. So I am now going to remount the same piece of plywood that I cut out, but at a lower level. And that will be the base for the water and for the scenery that I'm going to build up back up to the track level again. I've already cut a bunch of 1/2-inch wide strips of plywood, so I'm going to glue those to the top of the frames and put the original plywood on top of those, gluing it to the fascia again. So I'm just going to get on with that, and I will talk to you again later. Well, I have now reinstalled those same 3 pieces of plywood that I cut out of the holes. And this side, where the watering hole is going to go, they're positioned 1.5 inches below track level, so a scale 6 feet. And at this side it's just 1 inch down, so a scale 4 feet. I've weighted everything with bricks. I'm just going to leave that area alone for the glue to do its job while I work on something else. While I was waiting for that glue to set, I did a few other things. I painted all the track, just using dark brown camouflage spray paint, and then I immediately wipe off the rail tops with a scrap of this blue foam, or grey foam as the case may be. Here's one of the pieces I used. I will still need to clean the tracks later before I can run trains, but I wanted to get as much paint off as possible. Probably got 98% of it off, so it'll be a lot easier to finish it off with a track cleaning block later. Certainly a lot easier than having to scrape it with a knife blade. You may have noticed in this morning's photographs that I put a flat piece of masonite on this curved corner. If you recall from the fascia video, I mentioned that I would rather have had this throttle mount in the corner, but it wouldn't go on a curved surface without pinching the throttle and making it too tight. So that is a solution to that. Ultimately, I will spackle the edges and make it nice and smooth, and then touch up the paint. The fascia paint always needs to be touched up after working on scenery anyway, so I just make sure I'm ready to do it then. The next thing I'm going to do is cut the fascia down to approximately where it's going to have to go, and then I can finish the foam blocking in that area. Well, I've just cut down the fascia with the jigsaw, and immediately I realised I'd messed it up, because the watering hole is only supposed to be confined to this benchwork section. I don't want to extend it across the joint, so what I'm going to have to do is put a piece of masonite on the back of that to splice it, and then reattach some of what I cut off, and then I can patch it up later. It's not a big deal, it's just annoying, that's all. It won't take a great deal of time to fix it. Well, there is that piece glued back into place. I'm less than 5 minutes into the job so far, and it will probably be another 10 minutes to clean it up and repaint it when I'm touching up the fascia after doing the scenery. So it's no big deal. I'm going to clean up the cut here. This part from where my finger is now to here needs to be nice and straight, because that's where the water is going to go. And then the rest of it I'll just sand the burr off. And I can start putting foam in there to approximate the eventual contours. Well, that is those landscaping contours roughed in with blocks of foam. I've just got to shape them off with the oscillating saw, and any gaps will be filled in with sculptor mold. This is the approximate size of the pond. Need a little bit more of a bank here where my finger is, just to keep the water away from the benchwork edge. This area where I messed up the fascia earlier, I can't cut down for several more hours. I need to let that glue go rock hard before I start vibrating it with a saw. So I will probably leave that until tomorrow. I've got plenty I can get on with. That's the nature of this kind of job. There is always 1,000 other tasks I can go on to. Before I went in yesterday, I had another foam carving session along the back edge. That was everything that I had installed either yesterday morning or the day before. The areas in front, the glue had not yet set, and I particularly wanted to leave this fascia repair to go nice and hard before I risked vibrating the glue apart with a saw. I did come out again briefly last night and considered finishing carving this foam over this side, but there really wasn't a lot to be gained by it. I'm just going to do it quickly this morning before I get on with the next step. Well, that is all the rest of the foam shaping done and all the mess cleaned up. I've also taken an orbital sander to this area of fascia that I had to patch up. Once that's touched up after the scenery construction, no one will ever know that I made the mistake in the first place, unless of course they watch the video where I announced it. There's still a lot of little gaps in the foam. That will all be taken care of with sculptor mold. But I think the next step is to cover the areas that will ultimately take rock carvings with plaster cloth. The plaster of Paris doesn't stick very well to the foam. I need the gauze backing to hold the rock carvings together. I'm just going to do a quick pan around the railroad, showing all the rough foam carving. Well, I say quick, hopefully I'm going to go slow enough not to cause seasickness. I know some people have complained about that in my videos before. And that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm going to take care of the drop flap and the area around it when I'm ready to do the bridge abutments. Well, that's all for this week's installment. Hope you enjoyed the video, found it useful or interesting or both, and I hope to see you back next week, where I will start to get sticky with the plaster. Promises to be a lot of fun, and I'll see you there. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.